yeah, for me, guys, the book name. Maybe sharp, but heavy. Really heavy. Sure, it's not the truth. It was heavy, because, like, in computer that thing, I think we're gonna pay for it we are women. Being a female, like, it's very expensive. Because I think the guys, when they say women, they seem to glala. It's more like lion ebona muthu, you know, because people that have been raped in relationships, kids, like whoopies, like there's no specific thing. We cannot say they raped this person because of this. No, like everyone is a victim, especially ladies. So yeah, it was that. It was heavy, and even there's this child, neighbor in Revelation, the 4 years. My brain is still stuck on no. So yeah,
found it quite heavy. I didn't finish it, but yeah, from the first story in here, I thought, oh my goodness, I wasn't okay. It says what's written inside is exactly what you see, because even on my WhatsApp status, people were saying, "Yo, how did you get through this book? Just in the cover." You know, and what it says, I think everybody has got maybe things that they're also thinking about, but probably that's what the story is about. Because, I mean, as women, I think each and every one of us has got some kind of story, even if it's not rape or whatever, but we have stories that we can tell. So reading each story and the way each woman went through whatever kind of abuse they went through, it shows like culture. As women, we are so, we just need some kind of protection, and that protection we can never get from men, you know, because whether it's your husband or your father or whatever, you can never really be 100% comfortable with the men that you're with, and you can never be comfortable with your kids, whether a girl or boy, to be comfortable with these men that we expect, you know, to protect them. So it taught me a lot. Also to be very, very vigilant, especially when it comes to my kids, you know, to check and watch their actions and what they do, because sometimes you don't really see or get things, but with this book, you know what, maybe I need to watch out for this, you know, her behavior, you know, when he starts doing this, what maybe it means for ABC. So, although I didn't finish it, but it was a lesson for me towards my family, and also to say, whatever you've been through, there's always hope. Because in Kaufela Habona, these ladies that said their stories, at the end they've achieved something. So it's really not the end, you know. So yeah, it was more of a lesson than just a novel.
The book is heavy. And I don't, the fact that there is no solution, this is an ongoing thing. This is basically, so when you read a book, you have an expectation to be taken to another world where you don't exist, and fantasies. This book forces you to come back to the reality of being. So it wasn't an escape, it wasn't a journey, it was basically an awakening to basically make you aware of the reality. And that is the part where it was very heavy for me, and the stories, and the fact that the book ended with no actual solution, with not even when you go through the stats, there's no mention of actual plans or things that not in implements that are taking place to sort of solve this problem. In fact, when you talk about these things with men, they pretend like these things don't exist. It's far and few in between, but the stories are way too many for us to think, it's far and few in between. And yeah, the book was hard to take it. I had to push myself to finish it because of the dates. But generally, when I started take a break, because when you finish soup, I still wake up feeling it, so that kills your day before it even starts. So yeah, that was my experience.
Okay, so for me, like as the consensus, it's a heavy book. Like sometimes I read it in segments. I took a break, so I read it. I think I started reading it last year. When did we get the book last year?
Yes.
Yeah, I started reading it last year, and then it was just so heavy, and I stopped reading it, and I read a light. It's not really light, but another book that just made me forget a bit. And then I went back to the book, and it's just there's some stories that are, how can I put it, that I can almost relate to. You know, like there's things that happen in the workplace, you know, and then you end up developing like a bad attitude. For me, for example, I've got my guards up so much, like you can't come to me sideways, and like as a guy, because as soon as you come to me sideways, I'm ready to strike. And because the fact of the matter is that not all men are the same. That's just the honest truth, you know. Yes, there's stories like this of men, like, you know, who perform such gruesome acts, but it's not, I don't believe in painting everyone with the same brush. So sometimes you'll find someone that's just honestly innocently joking. They're not even making sexual innuendos or whatever, but that joke is like, like already I'm ready to attack, you know. So some of the stories were, they were quite triggering, if I can put it that way. Like, you know, made me go back to some of my own experiences, you know, and like it just made me like think, had I not gotten out of that situation, where would I be? Had I not, you know, like I wonder how would my life would have turned out. So it's so heavy. There's a chapter where the lady was raped by her father, and I was like, I find it so difficult, like, to understand how does a parent, like, how does a father, the way I idolize my dad, like, I love my dad, like, my dad is, like, he's my hero. He can, not that he can never do anything wrong, but my father can never, and I say this proudly because he's my father, he raised me. He can never do something like that to me as his daughter. So for me, a father, like a man that can do that to their own daughter, there is something wrong with you. There's really something deeply wrong with you, you know, because I always say this proudly, that now my dad taught me another, how can I put it, he made me aware of some of the things that happen. Like, I don't know how to put it, but I was aware of a lot of things because of him. Do you understand? Because of his presence in my life. So to read that, then this child was, how old is this child? And already you are starting to groom, primary 7. Imagine, what do you see in a 7-year-old? Even if you are not, like, even as a stranger, what do you see in a 7-year-old? So how upset I am. That's how upset I was reading this book. Like, this book it's very upsetting. And there was a lady who was being groomed by an older man, and again, like, it to show that these things happen. There's a friend that almost, well, kind of almost went through something like this. For her, it was a family. This guy was a family friend, right? Older, much older than her, and he would, like, make like advances, you know. And in school, we were like, I first was like, this guy, like, why would he ask that of you, you know? And my friend would be like, you understand? And then, but I think Liana, as time went, like, she matured, and abona ko no abutis mangmang asha, you know. So unfortunately, this girl even moved out of country, trusting this guy that is a family friend. You understand? Yes, Wangari. Yes. You know? I mean, you left your country trusting this guy, thinking this is my family friend. How many family friends do we have that you've trusted? You know, so it's in some of these stories where I thank, like, I'm grateful that my dad was as strict as he was. I'm grateful that when there was visitors, you would say no, or don't walk around the house naked. Why? Yes, it's all girls, but why are you walking around the house naked? Things like that. You know, it's sad that we need to be like taught that, like, you can't be free or as a girl child or as a woman, but it's unfortunately the reality of life, of the life that we live. So, but yeah, in closing, it was a sad book. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone that's been through abuse because it's going to open up a wound.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, so this book, I'm going to read a few things. I hope it doesn't trigger anyone, but I just want to share with whoever will be watching this, you know, just to get a gist of what the book is about. So this is the introduction of the book, and then this is after Sue Nyathi explained to us how abuse in her life started. And she says that the thing about abuse is that it thrives on silence and flourishes in secrecy. And we know when you've been abused, and abuse comes in different forms. Abuse is not only sexual, abuse is not only verbal, it's different forms. And this book actually covered different types of abuses, from the workplace abuse to neighbors being abusive to actual family being abusive. So it just says that with abuse comes shame, and when there's shame you keep quiet because obviously you don't want people to know what you've been through. And I think the main reason for this book was to share with people what these women have experienced so that other people can be liberated to share their stories. Because most of them will say that, hey, I've been through this, and because of this book I was able to talk about it and it helped me. Another one that I liked is, okay, so this one is also about silence, and it's Robin, I forgot her story actually, but okay. My quote is, now at least I can say that I've learned that silence strangles, that it does its own damage. And so I'd rather cry and scream and chase people away with my pain than go back to the time when words failed me. So there's just a lot of these realizations about abuse. When you think about it, like, I think most of us have suffered abuse, like some way, like you've experienced that. And the main purpose for this book was just to help us just come out, free yourself from this thing. Because you find that people like Lisu, she said that she didn't know that she was abused by this houseboy until she read about it in a book. And then she realized that, oh, so this is what happened to me. And it's because when you go through that thing, you keep it to yourself, I guess. And then you don't say it. And then to a point where you act like it never happened. And then eventually you forget about it until maybe you read a book like this. Then you're triggered and you remember, oh shit, this thing happened to me, and it could happen to Mang Mang. And the story that really touched me is what you mentioned, Sequoia. Yeah, that dad. That was one of the worst stories ever. And the other one that triggered me was
the rape, yeah, the 4-year-old. And I related to it so much because I have a daughter and she's at the same age now. So I know she doesn't speak that much. So I'm just thinking, like, if something like that happened to her, how would she express herself and tell us that, okay, Mang did 1, 2, 3, 4, you know? And we need to also consider that abuse is not one way. It also happens to men, and boy children can get raped. And I think that's another thing that we need to make awareness of, because most boys keep quiet when they're raped because stigma, because of shame. You're a boy, you need to defend yourself, you need to be the strong person. These things happen to us. Even though it triggers a lot of stuff, these stories most of us can relate to, and not because we've experienced the same things. We know Mang who've experienced something similar to this, and maybe it's time that, you know, we share. And another thing is, when we share again, you don't trust the person you're sharing the information to. I talk to you in confidence what happened to me. So I think society man is it's fucked up, man. It's messed up with that regard, because people keep quiet because and we protect the perpetrator instead of whatever experiencing the abuse. So solutions in the book, right? There's no solution that we can say, okay, this book is helping us with 1, 2, 3. Maybe do this when this happens, because there's another story I spoke to you about it earlier on. This girl who her parents said, if something like this happens, tell us. Then it happened, and she couldn't. So then what happens in that case? Because like my daughter, because I'm hoping that, you know, she can be able to defend herself in the future. But from what we've learned in the book, abuse, rape, or whatever, the first thing is you get shocked. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You even forget that your mom said, whatever, if anything happens, don't be scared, come to me. But she didn't say it. She didn't say anything. She kept quiet. But, you know, her parents always encouraged her to say, if anything like this happens, please don't be scared. No one is going to kill you. But if it happens to you, what do you do? Those are the kind of solutions that Nantanta was talking about. Like, what do we do if a situation like this happens? So yeah, heavy book, a much needed book for the society, and I wish that men could read this book, actually. That's my 2 cents.